the upticks in obviously the e-signing, e-closing because of the whole COVID-19 thing, everybody being remote. Tell me a little bit about that, Jen, with you guys. Is that something that has been already ongoing with you all? Was it like we need to get it done now because of what's happening? Is it something that's going to be the new norm going forward? Kind of what are your thoughts on that the e process?
Yeah, that's something that we'd already had sort of in our minds that we were going towards anyway. But this certainly accelerated it. So it's, really bubbled up to the top. So it's, it almost ties back into that looking forward. Some of these things that we thought would be forward thinking that we'll try and, get this deployed, end of the year, Q4, Q1, we're trying to accelerate it and get out the door like right away. So how can we bridge that gap in the meantime to address those needs, but still knowing that we're in the middle of a loan origination system conversion, know that we're going to have a longer term solution. So sort of what can we do right now, and then what's the long-term goal? But definitely the e-signing thing, we've been talking about that for at least a year, that the digital mortgages and, having that ability is really critical, especially since a good portion of our volume is in Texas and Oklahoma. Both states, allow for e-close.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Christy, your thoughts?
I think it's interesting that I think it's really interesting that we talk about, as companies, we've been looking at this for some time, and maybe the perception out there is that we've been kicking the can down the road and just haven't done it because we haven't had to. And a lot of the reason that we haven't done it has been the patchwork of regulations that would allow us to implement this across multiple channels. For us, we originate in all the channels, and for companies who originate across multiple state lines, it's not as simple as saying, yes, we're going to do it, or no, we're not. I mean, it's great to see the innovative solutions that people on the street are doing as you see pictures of porch closings and curbside closings, and that's great ingenuity, but we've really highlighted the problem of not having consistent rules that will allow for this. And as an industry, our regulations are hamstringing us a little bit.
You're absolutely right, Christy. It's 100%. It is challenging because you don't want to rush into it, especially in a regulatory environment. That's the way it is now. With them changing all the time, to Don's earlier point, you've got guidelines changing, but you also have a lot of these regulations that have not been well defined, especially from across state lines. So that is something that makes it even more difficult to be in front of that curve.
The interesting thing on e-closings, right? So, this is a piece near and dear to my heart. I've been heavily involved in this process for the last 4 years. I've implemented it 3 different times. Last year I spoke on 3 different panels on the need for e-closing. And I literally felt like I was like Chicken Little screaming, the sky is falling, and nobody's paying attention, right? And I'd come off these panels and so many lenders would come up and say, oh yeah, we've really got to start thinking about this. We really need to start thinking about this. We really need to start thinking about this. And sure enough, the day came when the sky did fall, right? And those that were already warmed up to this, I think have done really, really well. Those that have not, to try and scramble and try and figure this out in a very short period of time, it's a big adjustment, and it's complicated, right? And so, it's kind of like, did we have a knee-jerk reaction? No, I think we had a reality check. I think we should have spent the last 3 years preparing for this, and had we done so as an industry, this would have been a no-brainer to us. The problem is, to Christy's point, we just, as an industry, everybody's been thinking about it. They haven't been doing it. And so that's why it's become so complicated, right? And otherwise, if we would have, as an industry last year, put a huge effort into this, what if a year ago legislature would have come out and said, hey, starting next February, you're not going to be able to do an in-person closing, right? We would have all scrambled around like we are with IRLA, trying to figure out how to solve for the problem. But yet, because nobody's ever done that, we've never forced ourselves to get it implemented and get it done right. And now here we are, right? And so I'll bet 2/3 of the industry is trying to figure out a process in a very short time period. Whereas the lucky 1/3 that spent time last year or the year before figuring this out, they're on easy street right now.